Investigation continues as protests mounts at the justices' homes, and we're still actually waiting the real opinion from the court. So let's discuss with the former political director for Jamie Harrison's Senate campaign in South Carolina, Democratic strategist Bree Maxwell, and the former chief nominations counsel at the Senate Judiciary Committee, Article 3 Project President Mike Davis. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, I want to play something that comes to us from Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat on Fox News Sunday. Here's what he said as we await the opinion.
Well, I don't like the way that this decision came out, but the outrage here should be about what's going to happen to women and families in this country. The fact that women and doctors are going to be sent to jail immediately when this opinion becomes a reality.
Now, Mike, we don't know if this is the final opinion. If it does track with what Justice Alito wrote and those 5 votes stick together, are women and doctors immediately going to jail?
That is nonsense. What it means is that we're going to return to what the country did with abortion regulations for the first 200 years, and that means it's going to go back to the states. The federal government is going to get out of the abortion regulation business.
I want to play something from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell today. There are calls for the DOJ to get involved now with these protesters who appear to be violating federal law. Here's what McConnell said today on the Senate floor.
Last year, Attorney General Garland's Justice Department was quick to treat the concerned parents of America like potential domestic terrorists. But curiously, I haven't heard any announcement about how the DOJ may handle these intimidation tactics aimed directly at federal judges.
Bree, do you think that the federal authorities should get involved in these protests?
You know, absolutely. The president and the White House have also said that people have a fundamental right to protest. But, however, when it comes to violence, threats, harassment, and intimidation, those are things that should not happen. Those are things that should go down the drain. And judges have a fundamental right. They have a absolute responsibility to make sure that they are interpreting the law to make sure that we can live in the country that we have been designed to live in. So, yes, do I believe that they should have safety and protection? Absolutely, because right now people are upset. There's a lot of passion going on behind this abortion stuff. So, yes, I believe that they should be protected at this point because right now we are in some dangerous times.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those issues that there are very strong passions and emotions and feelings on both sides of this. In the meantime, the Senate is talking about taking a vote on codifying a national version of Roe. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer tweeted this. He says, "This week's on abortion rights is not an abstract exercise. This is as real and high stakes as it gets. Senate Republicans will no longer be able to hide from the horror they've unleashed upon women in America. We will see where every single senator stands." Now, Mike, I've heard various characterizations of exactly what this would codify. Are we talking about up to 9 months? Where do we draw the line? What is this vote going to do? I mean, the majority leader seems to think it's going to be a win for Democrats.
I don't see it that way. I think the Democrats are being too extreme on this abortion issue where they're calling for abortions up until the moment of birth. That's not going to fly with the American people. And you need 60 votes in the Senate to pass legislation. And there's no indication that Senator Joe Manchin or Senator Kyrsten Sinema or any of these other more moderate Democrat senators are willing to nuke the legislative filibuster to jam through this radical abortion scheme by Senator Schumer.
So, Bree, then why Democrats have this vote? Why should they do it and put everybody on the record and voting for something that, if it does include, that extensive, something that's beyond almost all polling here in the United States, something that would be up to 9 months of birth, why force Democrats to be on the record voting for that kind of bill when most Americans say that's completely out of step with how they feel?
Well, I think one reason why is right now because we are in the midterm election. So a lot of politicians and elected officials and candidates are just really just trying to save their butts with this election coming up. And also, the right should go to the states. The states should be able to make these decisions on abortion and the next step that we will be taking with abortion. But women should also be able to cross state lines to make sure that they are able to receive an abortion if they are not able to receive one in their state. So I think at this point, Democrats are trying to do whatever they can do to make sure that we are appeasing the American people, because right now Democrats need to make sure that we are able to win come November.
Now, Mike, other than the political part there that Bree mentioned about Democrats winning in the fall, I think you two sound like you're very much on the same page about protecting justices against intimidation and sending this back to the states. Do you think there's some common ground there on the two sides?
I think so. I would also say that the Attorney General Merrick Garland needs to step up right now. It's embarrassing. It is a dereliction of duty that the Virginia and Maryland governors had to step up to protect 6 justices, 3 in each state, because the Attorney General and FBI Director Chris Wray, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, the U.S. attorneys in D.C., Maryland, Eastern District of Virginia are not doing their jobs. They need to do their jobs and protect these justices from obstruction of justice and threats on their lives and their homes.
Well, there was bipartisan action in the Senate tonight. I think there may be growing calls for the DOJ to get involved as well. We'll watch. Bree and Mike, thank you both very much for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Shannon.